The Lilo and Stitch remake is anti-Indigenous eugenics propaganda for the Trump era. You've been warned. The Lilo and Stitch conversation is the eugenics conversation because eugenics is just one branch of colonization. Now let me explain. So when I came to USC for my PhD, I came to study specifically methods of intimate colonial violence. So what is intimate colonial violence? When we think of colonial violence, we think of the elimination of buffalo, smallpox blankets, forcible, removal like the Trail of Tears. But there were also more insidious methods of colonization that involved essentially sexual violence, forced assimilation, etc., etc. This leads us to the modern concept of eugenics, which was invented in 1883, essentially making it so that the state could determine who could and could not reproduce. So this gave the state jurisdiction over who was unfit to reproduce, which meant Black and Indigenous women, Latina women, and disabled people. So the invention of race goes hand in hand with settler colonialism. Native people had to be eliminated in order for settlers to take over the land, and Black folks had to be legally codified as property in order to labor on the land and produce wealth for white settlers. But with the emancipation of enslaved folks and colonial expansion to the West, this created a population problem. So how do you increase the amount of white settlers and decrease the population of everyone else? Through eugenics. So either you forcibly assimilate Native folks and make them identify as white by detribalizing them, taking away their federal recognition, or you mass sterilize Black, Indigenous, and Latina women. So eugenics is really tied up in this idea of increasing the white and able-bodied population and decreasing undesirable populations. So where does CPS come in? So instead of Indian boarding schools, now we have CPS separating Indigenous families. And so this is where we get into Native Hawaiian children. Hawaii is prime real estate for hotels, tourist attractions, and tech bro settlers like Mark Zuckerberg. And ever since the Kingdom of Hawaii was overthrown in 1893, I believe, the Native peoples are not federally recognized or seen as sovereign. So the colonization of Hawaii is happening through land loss, economic disenfranchisement, family separation, and displacement to the mainland, which is what happens to Nani. And so here's how it connects with eugenics. Essentially, the argument of, Nani keeping custody of Lilo is that she is too poor and too young and not supported well enough in order to take care of this child. And this gives the state power to determine whether Nani can take care of Lilo or not. But they're all they have left, not only of their family, but of, connection to their Indigenous community. And that is part of what Nani is desperately trying to hold on to. But the state and anyone looking from the outside in just sees a struggling Indigenous teenager who is not doing a great job of taking care of her little sister. And that is part of this larger eugenics project, which is assimilation to what family structure should look like, what child care should look like, what, a culture should look like. Standards of whiteness, essentially. Which is why we're introduced to the word Ohana to begin with. It is another word for family. It is the Indigenous word for family. It is a different definition and a different scope of family. The Lilo and Stitch remake is anti-Indigenous eugenics propaganda for the Trump era. You've been warned.